Perfect. All right, welcome back, my ECA audience. This is episode, I want to say, I think 8.
You're muted. Still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right, let me do this again. Welcome back, my ECA audience. For this week's episode, I think this is episode, I want to say 8 or 9. We're going to be covering threat hunting and how to build a career inside of it. We kind of touched on it a little bit for one of the first episodes this year. Nigel's finally back. Nigel flies private, actually. I said for a clap every episode. So he flies private all over the country for his job. So he's so we're glad to have him back.
Glad to be back, man. Glad to be back.
Yes. So again, like always, if you guys have questions at all about anything, please drop them inside the chat, and we will do our best to answer them. So let me see. I will pull it up and monitor as well to make sure. There's any questions. But our first topic that I want to cover is to go over some of the differences between threat hunting, detection engineering, and then threat intelligence. Those are all in the same family, but they're different subcategories of the threat landscape. So I'll cover threat hunting and detection engineering because that's the two areas I work in. Then I'll have Nigel cover threat intelligence. Any questions you guys have about the topics at all, please again drop your questions inside the chat for us. So I'll start. So, what is threat hunting? Threat hunting is a practice of looking for threats in the organization to try and prevent threats from happening. So, in terms, your job is to find some type of output when you're performing a hunt. That can be bad, it can be good technically, right? It means you found something, right? So an output could mean if Nigel is my director, he tells me to do a threat hunt. I'm looking at the environment. I'm looking for a malicious PowerShell script or executable, and I find that the rules we implemented 2 weeks ago are preventing some type of DDoS attack from happening, right? That is a positive output, right? So rules we have implemented have been protected against the environment, which is what we want. So I'll give that output toward Nigel. He's like, oh, this is awesome. It's like the rules we've been doing have been helping out, right? Or I can find something else malicious that isn't a part of my threat hunt, and I'll give it to Nigel and say, hey, Nigel, I found this. This isn't part of the threat hunt that you told me and paid me to do, but this is something that you might want to be on the lookout for the next couple of weeks. So here's what I found towards your team, so you take a look at it, right? Again, that is not necessarily what my task was to do for that specific threat hunt, but that is something that they want to be on the lookout for. So that is threat hunting. Part 2 would be detection engineering. Detection engineering is a practice of actually preventing, or not preventing, but yeah, technically preventing threats from happening to the environment in the regard of actually building detection rules. You're going to detect on known entities, so stuff you know is actually malicious inside your environment that applies to your environment. As with threat hunting, you're looking for stuff that is more unknown, but you know it might affect your specific industry niche. So a detection engineer might get information from a threat hunter or threat intelligence team. They will then use that extra context to build better rules for the environment. So if we're building detection rules on AWS, security incidents, or Microsoft Sentinel stuff, or CrowdStrike Falcon, doesn't matter, right? We'll then build rules on whatever SIEM platform we have, or whatever EDR platform that we have, in order to actually prevent them threats from actually happening inside the environment and actually detect them once they actually happen. So that's the goal of a detection engineer. And then Nigel, what is threat intelligence in cybersecurity?
Yeah, cyber threat intelligence is understanding the cyber threat landscape keeping up with the different types of threats and threat actors that are going on, providing actionable intelligence to the stakeholders so they can make better decisions, right? So essentially, intelligence is data that's been analyzed. And what's really important about intelligence is that it's relevant to your organization. Um, I so in simply put, you need to understand what sector you're in, what type of threats matter to your organization, and that's the type of intelligence that's going to help the other stakeholders in the business make better decisions to help the security posture. So that's what cyber threat intelligence is.
So from that, I know there's different areas for cyber threat intelligence. Could you go over the three main areas?
Yeah. Well, there's three different types of intelligence, right? There's strategic, operational, and tactical. Strategic is more leadership focused, so understanding what's going to keep your leaders up at night. So they're understanding the big threats, geopolitical things that are happening that's very important in the industry. Those are the type of intelligence that they want to know. From an operational standpoint, that's more of let's say any 0-day vulnerabilities that may come out that's relevant to your tech stack. Maybe your vulnerability management team needs to know that, or any IOCs, any indications of compromise that your SOC can implement or ingest to help enrich maybe some of the detections that they see. It gives them better context, like, hey, this IP address or this domain or so, is a known bad domain. So these are type of intelligence that you can feed the SOC based off a threat feed that you may get. And then the last one that I think kind of ties into this threat hunting and detection piece is the tactical piece, right? So from an intelligence standpoint, the tactical piece is understanding the behaviors of these threat actors and some of the TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures that they do. And from there, you're able to kind of map them, or analyze them, whether you're doing it from a MITRE attack framework or you're going to use the diamond model or the cyber kill chain. But from there, we're trying to understand the behaviors that these actors are doing and then, kind of report on them and give them or give that stakeholder, whether it's a red team or detection engineering team, to see for any of those anomalies in your environment.
Perfect. It's a perfect explanation. So there's a lot of different areas of threat intelligence for you guys, right? Because they get asked a question, I want to do threat intelligence, and I ask you, okay, what part though, right? There's different parts you can do. Some are more technical, some are more strategic, right? So understanding which part suits your skill sets best and what you actually want to do will be very important for your career. So always keep that in mind when you're asking people questions about those things, so they're able to guide you down the right path. We have a threat intelligence course. We have a threat hunting course as well. So you guys have questions about that, what it actually look like, just ask me or ask Nigel. We're here to help you out. If you have other questions about any of the other stuff that we do, check out the website, check out my profile page, check out Nigel's profile page. Again, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have in that regard. There's a lot of big things changing and trying to improve. So I want everyone that wants to be inside the career path and want to put in the work, we're more than happy to welcome you inside of our doors.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to the next cohort 100%.
Yes, I've been getting people asking about it from Dave's channel, actually. Okay. Speaking of which, we're in the process of actually forming a partnership with Dave. Not official yet, but that is in the works. So, God willing, that gets done by the end of May. So we're able to get that finalized and get to do really cool stuff with Day and his team. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Because everyone knows Day Johnson from Amazon Cyberwalk channel is an awesome guy, super knowledgeable. He's been killing it. Been doing it since he's been like 19 years old. So super awesome guy to be connected with and ask him questions on. Our first question, Nigel. Let's see. Reporting threat intelligence to leadership is an estimate of cost if the threat affects an organization.
Not typically. The main reporting when talking to leadership is risk and business, right? So from a numbers standpoint, you don't really report that. That could come from a different kind of facet. That could be a GRC or that kind of standpoint. But the risk, understanding the risk and what that business unit may be where that threat could affect, would help them understand what the cost of that. So let's think of it from a real world scenario kind of per se. Let's say that this threat affects a critical business unit that may cost the business to go down for this amount of time. They're going to think that, and can be, depending on your organization, they may have like a problem management team or things of that nature who can calculate that that cost of this threat affecting the business to being down this long. But from a reporting standpoint, from a cyber threat intel, we typically don't add a dollar amount if this threat was going to affect the organization and this is what it would cost, right? We want to talk about risk and also fill in the gaps that we may have from a security standpoint. Let's say we don't have visibility into this specific TCP, this specific actor, and communicate that to leadership, right? And then also what we want to do is be proactive. So if, let's say, leadership doesn't know about this specific threat and this specific threat could affect this business unit that would cause the organization to be down for this long, then that's what we're going to do, right? They will make that determining factor of what that cost could be depending on what that business unit or, what that crown jewel may be, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I'll also add, it's going to depend for the organization org size too. Different organizations have different structure for how they want to report that. For larger organizations, normally there'll be a different team that will have to kind of assess that. That may be compliance, right? Because they may know what assets need to be protected for compliance purposes or legal purposes, right? That may be part of the legal team too, right? To understand, hey, these are protections we need to have, and here's what happens if we don't protect these, right? Here are the legal ramifications if we don't protect these certain assets for our industry. So it's just going to depend on what sector you're in that regard from what I've seen my clients do. A really good question, though. All right, next question. What is your process cell methodology as it appears to be unique to every threat hunter? So for me, personally speaking, Jerome, my goal whenever I am performing a threat hunt is I like to get a baseline as to how the environment is actually structured, because it's very hard to measure something if you don't know. Oh, I should put this. It's very hard to know what is good if you don't know what is bad, right? So getting a baseline as to how the environment is actually running, how it actually normally runs on a daily basis, a weekly basis, monthly basis, right? And then comparing those different values across the board, it's a very good way to get started. From there, I'll create my hypothesis for what I believe may be going on. Probably that'll be based off of what my client gives me. So if they give me the, it's like thought process of, hey, there may be some bits admin job for one of those tools that being maliciously used for our environment, or hey, there may be one file transfer system that's happening for C2C. I'll take a look at that, right? And then I'll kind of tweak my hypothesis based off the information that they give me. And then I may ask, like, Nigel, if Nigel works for me, like, hey, are there any threat actors I should be on the lookout for that may affect this organization based off of the criteria? It's like, oh yeah, we've been looking at so and so, maybe black box stuff, for example, or something like that, or maybe dark side, right? And he'll give me information on that, and then I can perform my threat hunt, and then again get more information from there. I'll get more granular. Big thing for threat intelligence, threat hunting, detection engineering, to document everything. As Nigel knows, if you don't do that, no one's gonna be happy. Because it's very odd for you to do months worth of work and someone asks you how you did it, and then you have nothing to show for it, right? They're gonna want, okay, what have you done? How can we do it ourselves once you're gone, right? And how can we improve on it, right? You need to have lots of documentation, lots of screenshots, right? Lots of workflows, right? Lots of queries for the things you run or scripts that you run, right? Document everything, save all your processes, right? You can do it in any format you want. Use a Notionpad or if you want to use SharePoint, whatever they have, just document the processes, right? So every threat hunter has their own unique processes for how they do stuff, but that's my own personal one. And they can probably be improved on too, but that's the way I like to do it. All right, really good questions. Next question. What are your opinions on sharing threat intelligence so others can be aware outside of the org you're working for? Of course, no client info.
Yeah, sharing threat intelligence is very important, so others can be aware, especially organizations that are in your sector. So there's groups out there called ISACs, which stands for Information Sharing Analysis Center. And depending on what sector you're in, there's different ISAC groups that your organization can become a part of. I think there's free memberships as well as paid ones, but that is one way to share intelligence in a collaborative way that a lot of professionals in the space use. There's also just sharing it on your own personal like blog or things of that nature, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, whichever your method is. But essentially, sharing intelligence within the field is going to be very important to help stay ahead of these actors, right? So I think it's very important. And if you're able to get a part of one of the ISAC groups, definitely I would say do that and share the intelligence, whether it's IOCs, reports, things of that nature. There's MISP groups that you can add indicators to as well. So things like that, I think is very important.
Awesome. Next question. How do you stay updated on threats? Do you use AI at all?
I don't use AI to stay updated on threats. I guess I'm a little old school on that front.
Old man.
Yeah. But how I stay up to date is typically through different avenues, ISAC groups, blogs. Bleeping Computer is one example. The Hacker News is another one. Dark Reading is another source that
My favorite.
Yeah, these are some sources how I stay up to date on threats. And then there's also premium feeds that I stay up to date with threats on through different tools. But I would say for the open source ones, Bleeping Computer, Hacker News, and Dark Reading are some great ones to stay up to date on threats that are going on in the world, any cyber threats.
Yeah, I don't use AI too much from like a threat perspective. I haven't found too many uses in it, honestly. It's good for like overall like workflow optimization. I would say it's really beneficial. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nigel. But if you want to streamline some of your workflow processes to make it think more organized, to kind of allow you to do the more technical work of your job, I think it's really beneficial for that. But I don't use like AI to like write queries or to write code for the most part. Like, I found it's very mundane and redundant, and it makes a lot of mistakes, which I just have to end up fixing. And then trying to research threats. Just like threat feeds, we'll use like Pulse Dive. Shout out to Grace. I use Virus Total, Euroscan.io, has a bunch of articles you can pull from database and stuff. I also use from like threat intelligence firms like Palo Alto's Unit 42 has a lot of really good stuff that I'll use. Or I'll use like Snowpost. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But I'll use them a lot as well. So it just depends on what the threat I'm looking at or what's been given towards me, and I'll kind of tweak my own processes from there. So it just depends. But I don't really use AI to like research threats too much. It's more for my workflow optimization. Question: have you ever submitted threat intelligence you have found to CVE? Is it a difficult process?
Have I ever submitted threat intelligence you have found to CVE as a difficult process? I think the question is if I ever submitted like a 0-day, a known, like a vulnerability, and I don't see the name of the user, but I think that's his question. Essentially, if you've found a new like 0-day vulnerability and reported it, and and submitting it to the what is it called? The NVD, I think it is, National Vulnerability Database, to get like credit for it or things of that nature. I haven't done that, if that's your question. And I'm not too familiar with the process of doing that. Usually what I've seen, so when I've been in the field, is there may be a user who has talked about, like, for example, there was a CV that came out late last year about IPv6. And that was a user I saw on X talking about it. Saying there's a flaw in IPv6 and something being enabled. I can't remember exactly, but a few days later, it became a 0-day vulnerability. So I would assume that user went through the process of putting that through the NVD and then it becoming a real 0-day vulnerability. So to answer your question, I haven't done that before. I don't think the process would be difficult. It might be tedious, right? But yeah.
Nice. Next question would be, any good threat intelligence podcasts?
Oh, dang.
I can't think of any off the top of my head that's like threat intelligence specifically.
Yeah, the only podcast, I probably shouldn't say this, but personally, the only podcast I really listen to in cyber is the Dark Knight Diaries. Like that's the only one that can keep my attention. So I'll pop into different, like, let's say, content creators and listen to some of the stuff that they talk about in cyber or cyber threat intelligence. For example, yeah, I don't think I have one cyber threat intelligence focused, but some good podcasts. Like I said, the Dark Knight Diaries is a really good one. For me, I listen to John Hammond. He talks about a lot of different things that are going on, like different 0 days, or he's more on the hacking side, but he gives insight from a threat intelligence standpoint of the hacker mindset, who initially, are on the bad side, the red team, or the non-ethical hackers are the threat actors that we have to stay ahead of. So he kind of gives insight into some of the tactics that they may use to exploit different vulnerabilities and things of that nature. So I like to listen to stuff like that, like trying to understand that the attacker's mindset, because that's how we stay ahead. But as far as threat intelligence podcasts,
Specifically, I don't have anything for that. Like cybersecurity overall, I have a bunch. Henry, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I always watch his stuff, and he lets me on the show a lot of times too. One of our partners.
Oh yeah.
That's a really good one that I always suggest watch people. Dave's channel.
Yeah.
I guess not including ours, right? Shameless plug. But yeah, Day, Henry, two ones I suggest as well. And then I have a couple other friends that aren't specifically cyber, but they're tech related. So there's some other good ones as well, but those are two ones. As like Black tech professionals, I like to support other Black tech professionals. So those are ones that we suggest.
Yeah, Textual Chatter, HD is a legend for sure. Definitely check out his podcast. The stuff that Dave puts out, I watch all his content. Obviously, Kenneth's content as well. But yeah, there's a lot of good podcasts and information in the space. To me, it's just about preference and formatting and things of that nature. But
yeah,
preference.
I like to call him Lord Henry Davis. All right. Easy does it. This is Ariel. Simply Cyber goes over news stories every morning. I like the consistency. It helps me come up with stories to include in the newsletter I curate at work.
Yeah. I always get that question, like what does your day look like? One of the first things I do is check the news, right? So obviously, as a threat intel person, I need to know exactly what's going off in the world from a cyber threat and intelligence news perspective. So what I do is I have like a list of different sources and blogs that I check to see if there's anything relevant, right, to my organization and things of that nature that needs to be either communicated, analyzed, things of that nature. So yes, reading news every day is part of my job. I go through a lot of different articles. Now there's, I have certain things in place to parse to make sure I'm only getting the relevant things. But yeah, reading the news every day to see what's going on is very important.
Yeah. Do I read for cyber news? Well, mine stuff is different because I'm also a business owner, so I have to read marketing and sales stuff as part of my overall training. So I don't get to always focus purely in cyber like Nigel does, sadly. So like from like that standpoint, for anyone that's interested in like improving their overall like business mindset, which I think is very important. Justin Walsh is really good. I think anybody that's wants to have any profile on social media or any like personal brand, I think he's awesome to follow and to watch. He breaks down things really well. And then from like a personal note, I also watch Scott Galloway. Um, People don't like him, but Alec Ramsey, I'm not as extreme as him, but I do like some of the things he says for how he runs his business. But yeah, there's a lot of different things you can basically look on YouTube to get or go online. So it's just being careful about what you read and what you actually curate is the biggest thing. And then, Ariel, I'll see you tomorrow. Or I better see you tomorrow because I'll be at the event. But I think we got through most of the questions for right now. That's good. Yeah, guys.
I think you might have missed one.
I think. Oh, you're right.
There's one before that I think he asked above Ariel's.
Oh. Let me see.
Yeah.
As we're not getting younger, Ella, what efforts do you do to ensure our youth can learn and get into threat intelligence? Any orgs that we can support? So I guess I'll go first, Nigel. So from my end, we've been trying to work with like school districts specifically within Dallas, like IDS. So I've been trying to do business with them in order to teach cybersecurity towards younger students. So we partnered with one of the school districts in Atlanta for one of our contracts to help teach middle school and high school students about cybersecurity and then some engineering overall. So doing threat intelligence and doing threat hunting is one of the next steps I do want to do. We're also training military veterans as well and exiting service members on cybersecurity. So to try to get as many disenfranchised people into the field as we can. We need more diversity from that regard.
Yeah, for me, I think it's more so what I've been doing is around where I live, I've been going to different like talks and talking to like military vets, people who are trying to transition. And it's not been cyber threat intel focused, but it's been more cybersecurity focused, them trying to transition into the field and kind of going through my journey. Obviously, I highlight what I do as far as cyber threat intel. And, if there's any interest and things of that nature that want to get into that field, obviously I have a course at Ellington Cyber Academy that they could, sign up for, and I would teach them the foundations of understanding what cyber threat intelligence is and applying it. And if not at your organization, being able to set one up. But, that's what I do. I don't do anything like officially, but definitely it's on the roadmap for me because I see the interest in the field. Most people who are in Intel aren't the most, I don't know how to put it. You don't see much, right? Or hear much from them, right?
Yeah, kind of hide in the shadows.
Yeah, our space is very very niche, right? Threat intel is like a specialized subset in cybersecurity. So I just want to be able to, kind of share more, as much as I can and things of that nature and just highlight that it is a great field to get into. And I think if you're a very curious person, and it's very diverse, so you don't have to have like a super like specialized skill in cyber. If you're in journalism or you come from a journalism background, you would be great in cyber threat intel. If you're a very curious person, you'd be very great in cyber threat intel. There's many different things that you could, a lot of transferable skills from prior jobs that you have that you can fit right in cyber threat intel. So,
yeah. Oh, and then yes, I am in Justin. I don't know what his name's hiding on the StreamYard side, so we can't see his name for some odd reason. I don't know, but I can see it directly on LinkedIn. But yes, Justin, based out of Atlanta. So we're teaching middle school and high school students. I think we will finish. I think this week or next week. I need to talk to my staff about it. We're trying to get that contract renewed as well for my current client. Then yeah, I'm also trying to. Well, we already won one of the contracts based out of Fort Cavavo. So some of the training stuff we're doing. Our biggest thing has been getting funding for the students so they don't have to pay out of pocket. Sometimes they do because state's very slow and the government can be kind of inefficient a lot of times. So we are doing the best that we can. So we're trying to give them different options if they're not able to pay out of pocket through different loan providers and stuff that nature. So they're able to get really high quality training. As Nigel can tell you, we're pretty serious about making sure our student gets results. Because I personally didn't like a lot of things about college. One of the facts that I had to take a supply chain management class, even though I did cybersecurity, and I'm like, I should have told the professor, I'm sorry, I don't care about this. I don't. I remember I was trying to be motivated. I was like, I just don't care about this. I'm like, I'm not gonna use this in my job, right? So trying to make this the best experience possible has always been a really big thing for me, and we get our students very good results because we take this very seriously. A module student Clark got $50,000 increase, right? I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean that's life-changing money. Some people don't realize that that's life-changing money for him, his family, in his future, right? And Nigel helped him get that. Nigel always had that type of feeling. So a lot of really cool stuff we're doing here. And I have big plans for you too, Nigel, as we expand our training offering. I'm bringing inside more of the contracts we're working on too. So
sounds great.
Yeah, a lot of science stuff happening. So if you guys have any questions about that at all, again, please let us know. I'm always on LinkedIn all the time. So ask any questions that you may have. And then Justin, feel free to ping me on the side. We are having one of our capstones. Our capstones are a technical capstone where they'll have to present their case in front of different hiring managers and directors inside the field, such as Nigel or me, or like Chloe, or John, or Chuck, and then they will have to basically present their case in front of you guys, and then we'll grill them like fish to make sure they're actually ready for it, and go from there. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. So if you guys have any questions about it, just let us know. Then Ariel puts,
you don't think supply chain management is relevant? That is a good point. So there are supply chain attacks, right? Which are actually quite often. Let me not say quite often, but we do see that, right? A lot of organizations have integrations with some of these SaaS platforms who could potentially, if they got breached, the organization that's using them could get breached as well. So great call out, Ariel. Great call out.
Well, we didn't cover that at all in that program. It was like calculating some of the numbers where I'm not ever going to use this, which I don't ever use it whatsoever.
AKA Kenneth just didn't want to take that class.
I did not. I think I got a B in it. But yeah. And then Justin puts, I need to go discourse to be a part of. Yeah, it's just a bunch. Henry has a new one that's free. Outside of Patreon. So Tech Tool has one. I know Damien has one for cloud security stuff as well. But then obviously Dave for Cyberwalk as well. He has one too. So
Yeah.
we have, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Nigel.
No, I was gonna. You said two Days and Henry's. I would say Days Hardrock and Henry from Textual Chatter. Their discords are on point. I would recommend those two for sure.
Yeah, we have a Slack channel, but it's only private for our members, so that wouldn't be free towards the public. But we answered most of the questions right now. Awesome. So the next topic that I want to cover would be what tools I get access often. We'll do twofold. Specifically, what tools do we use for threat hunting, and then what search tickets I get access quite often. So from a tooling perspective, it will depend, right? There are so it's depend. If you're working industry, which means you work for like a normal company, you don't work for like a consulting or MSSP firm. Normally, what will happen is you'll probably either use like a SIM platform, a SOAR platform, or a EDR and XDR. Either some combination of all three or one of those platforms. Basically, you'll use to perform threat hunts, and a lot of times threat intelligence, because there'll be a lot of threat intelligence feeds you can pull from those platforms. That's not going to test source that. So how that look like? Let's say we've been getting a lot of alerts in through Smoke Enterprise Security, because obviously it won't be for QRadar because that doesn't work. So let's say Smoke Enterprise Security, we're getting a lot of alerts. Those alerts then turn to incidents. Those incidents get sent off towards, let's say, XOR Splunk Phantom for the SOAR platform. How those incidents get handled, incident team, threat intelligence team may be like, hey, Kenneth, we've been getting a lot of these incidents. Can you start taking a look at some of the backlog, and can you start doing some research as to are there any more threats we're not seeing that we can't handle because we're too busy with these ones that might be coming down the pipeline in the future for our organization? I'm like, sure thing, bet I can do that. I'll then get with Nigel, schedule a meeting with them. Hey, Nigel, I'm trying to form a hypothesis based off of these incidents. Are there any APT groups that you might want to be on the lookout for? We're a pretty large organization. Let's say we're Fortune 50. Let's say we're like Intel, like a really large corporation. Are there any nation state actors or APT groups that we should be on the lookout for? He's like, oh, sure. These are the three to be on the lookout for. These are some of the main techniques we use. So let me know if you have any more questions about that. I'll say, awesome. I'll let you know. I'll have to do my research. I'll start to look at the logs to see, hey, are we ingesting this data first off, right? 9 out of 10, we're not. And if we are, it's not parsed correctly. That always happens for some odd reason. Excuse me. Then from there, once I actually figure out, hey, are we ingesting this data? Is it being parsed correctly? Go back, look, and ask, hey, is there any documentation mapping this out towards anywhere? Obviously not, because no one can write anymore, right? So then I'll have to put the documentation for that, right? Then I'll have to perform an investigation, create a baseline, use my hypothesis method to see what's actually going on. From there, start to build queries out, look for those threats in the environment, and pivot and use my tools if need be, right? So I would say for threat hunting, it's a lot more process-oriented than it would be from tool specific. So if your processes are good, you should be able to use any tool to get the job done, right? Ideally, you have like a cool SIM platform, because it makes things a lot easier than to have to manually look at logs, which sucks. But it's more process oriented, right? So we teach fundamental processes and how to actually do a lot of this task, because your firm may not use Splunk Enterprise Security, sadly. They may use QRadar or Logarithm. Think about that. It's awful. But hey, they may use that, right? So you have to work with what you got. So keep that in mind. In terms of actual certifications, and actually tell me, do any of your students that you know that be brought in, have they taken the Splunk? What is it? The cyber defense analyst one?
I actually only know a couple people who have taken that cert. One of them actually is someone in ECA. I think David took that certification, I believe. I could be wrong.
Awesome.
Yeah, and yeah, I only know a couple people who've taken that certification. Um, but I was actually on the edge of my seat to hear about some of these threat hunting certifications because um, I guess my point of view, once again, like I'm not a threat hunter. Do I do threat hunting sometimes? Yes, but I am not a threat hunter. My hunts are intel driven usually, right? So this is coming from external intelligence based off specific IOC, specific actors, specific campaigns that are going on. And like what Kenneth kind of touched on, I would use the tools at my disposal to pivot to look for indications of evidence that there's presence in the environment, right? So I would pivot from the different tools that he mentioned, right? EDR, SIM and SOAR, email security, stuff like that. But yeah, not to cut your wisdom, but yeah, certifications, I'm not aware. I think I would probably potentially see, I'm a little jaded. I would maybe potentially focus on vendor specific to understand and get a very grasp of the platform. So to your point, Splunk, I would probably want to become proficient in Splunk, maybe become proficient in an EDR platform. Maybe like I think it'd probably be easier to get one in Microsoft than like the other EDRs because they're probably behind a paywall or something. But
A lot of them are.
yeah, so probably just I think understanding a SIM and a SOAR would probably be your best bet because you would be able if an organization has that, then you could be pretty successful in your hunts if you're able to have all the data and all the logs in one platform.
Yeah. So I would second that, right? I have the cyber defense analyst one. If you've never used Splunk Enterprise Security Hands-on or Splunk SOAR, I don't think you can ever pass that exam because it's really hard if you don't have that context. I know Splunk has kind of like the threat intelligence one, a threat hunting one for that. I know so does Microsoft for S3, I think like 200. I took that one, but I don't like Microsoft products in general, so I didn't do too well on it. I just want to pass the Sentinel one. Um, and I know they have one for Defender, I think too. So it just depends. I normally aim to go probably vendor specific to start off with because normally certain sectors use certain tools because it integrates better with their platform. So if you get really good at a certain suite of tools, you'll stand out. A lot of times, a firm will want you to either have like Splunk experience or Microsoft Sentinel experience. If you don't have that, someone else does, they'll pick the other person, right? So just having that type of experience is going to be very, very beneficial for you guys moving forward. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You guys have questions about that. Again, feel free to drop a question inside the chat as well on that. And we'll do our best to answer any questions you have. And then my overall take on certifications is to be kind of judicious with them, be specific. Don't just collect 1,000, be like Thanos, like have a reason as to why you're studying for them. Because at the end of the day, your job as a professional to solve a problem for a business. They can choose whoever can best do that. They want to minimize the amount of risk that goes to making that decision. And so a lot of times in natural consent searches, most time for more advanced roles, they'll already have someone in mind that they want to hire. And then the only reason they'll post that job publicly is if they can't find somebody. I can test towards it because we're in a staffing firm. That's normally how it works. So this is why I tell people to build and strengthen your networks. That's how you land most roles. Most roles I've ever gotten has been through networking. I rarely ever apply to a job on a site and get the job because it's very hard. You're going to see a pool of applicants. So if you get referred, if someone can promote or sponsor you to get that role, then definitely go that route. You'll save a lot of time and headache.
Yeah, I agree. To kind of piggyback off of that, certifications, they may look good on resumes and things of that nature, but to Kenneth's point, you're essentially being hired to solve a problem, and I don't want to guarantee, but 9 times out of 10, they're not going to ask you a question off of your certification in the interview. They're going to ask you a scenario-based type of question to see if you have the skills in place to solve that issue or that problem or that scenario that may come up. So I would say be strategic if you are going to get certifications. And I'm just under the belief that I would learn skills, then get the job and then hopefully that I can showcase those skills and get a job, and then let my company pay the certifications, and I'll get all the certifications I want. So it depends. And then to what Kenneth's point as well, networking. Sometimes it's not always what you know, but who you know, and being able to build those relationships with these people, with different people at different organizations when these jobs do come up, and they're able to see. So that's why it's very important on branding and posting what you're doing and stuff like that on LinkedIn is very important. So when you want that reference or that kind of referral, you're able to, have that mutual relationship with whoever you're building that network with. So I definitely agree with networking, and will help with applying for roles for sure.
Yeah, so I keep trying to tell people. People keep saying apply to like 200 applications. I'm like, damn it, did you get referred by anybody? Did you know anybody in the job? No. I'm like, well, then a lot of times it's gonna be a number game at that point. You'll have to kind of push out a crap ton of it. It should be disheartening. So
Yeah.
And people complain about cyber like this. I'm like, guys, like every field's like this. I have family members in other fields. I'm like, this is how it normally works. We're human beings. We want to hire people that we actually know, like, and trust. It's like a fundamental thing of how we survived for so long. So,
Yeah, I actually say that I think a lot of the times a hiring manager is hiring to see if you're a good fit on the team. Sometimes you might not even have to have all the technical acumen. Like you could maybe have a baseline, but if you're like you give off team player kind of skills and personable potentially, like things like that, I think I'm really big on soft skills. So technical skills to me is just like how much time do you have to study for something? Like if I really wanted to, I could be a Splunk expert like Kenneth, but I don't want to do that with my time. So like it just depends on what you want to do. But the soft skills is things that I think will take you the extra mile. If you're able to communicate, are you personable? How do are you concise? Are you long-winded? These are things that you should probably know about yourself and practice on getting better. So
yeah. A lot of times, as long as you have the baseline, unless it's for like a really, really specific high level role, they're like, hey, the project worth millions of dollars and you need to hit the ground running like the minute you start. 9 to the 10, as long as you're a good fit within the team and you have like a decent baseline, you'll be fine. There are roles like, hey, if you said you're Python expert, I need you to be able to build these out the minute you start, right? 9 out of 10, it can take you like a month or two to get access anyway, so they're not really going to care too much from what I've seen, what my clients have asked for. Let me see. Any other questions we're missing? I don't think we're caught up. Since this is the last 10 minutes or so, we're open up towards the floor for any questions at all for career stuff, job stuff, technical sales stuff. The floor is yours, guys, to ask us any questions you may have in terms of anything, really. Let's see if anybody has any questions.
Sorry, Chris. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Tech Woke. Everyone in the chat, go check out Tech Woke. I did a podcast with Chris on cyber threat intelligence and my journey on his platform. I think it's on YouTube. So definitely check out Chris at Tech Woke.
I'm supposed to interview Chris whenever I'm back in DC. So I'll have to do that probably this fall when I go back.
Yeah, definitely.
I got a chance to meet Markeisha, and then I got the chance to meet Chloe, Courtney, Ayo, Cabran, and Jamel all in person. So it's really cool. So a really, really good time there. And they get wild. People get wild when there's alcohol inside their system. It's funny for me because I don't drink, so it's always fun to watch people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got very. The ties basically went off. So it was very fun to see, especially Chloe.
Yeah. Definitely got to meet the team soon. I'm actually doing a podcast with Tiffany and Jordan next month. Yeah.
Where are you going down to Tampa?
Yep.
Wait a second. Nigel, are you gonna be B-sides? Tampa?
So I'm trying to set that up. I actually might be out of the country, but I'm gonna try and make it if I'm back in time.
Worst people stuff. His life is like, I know, Kenneth. Yeah, you're right. I mean, what can I say?
Yeah.
Me, I gotta fly Spirit Airlines or underneath the cargo container, basically.
There's nothing wrong with Spirit.
Huh.
Chat, if you guys have any questions, any career, cyber threat intel, threat hunting, whatever, closed mouths don't get fed ever.
Yeah, people don't understand that. I was talking to people inside of the chat from my DMs. I tell people, I'm like, this may be extreme, but like treat your job search and treat your career like your life depends on it, because it does, basically, right? The ability to take care of your family, the ability for you to travel the world, do where you want to, find a spouse, right? Make a lot of money, right? Live life you want to live, depends on how well you do in that regard, right? So treat it as such. So that means if someone told you no once, right? If someone said, Nigel, if you don't find a job by the end of the week, I'm gonna take your life. How would you treat it, right? Right? How many times have you asked your boss about something, right? Would it be once? Would it be twice? Would it be 100 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go with that mindset. If you want to switch over to different departments, again, have that type of mindset. Someone tells you no, there's 10 other people on the team, you ask every single person on the team, you keep on doing it until they give you an answer that you like, right? Be persistent. Go after what you want, right? It's going to be awkward. It's going to be hard, right? But that's why if you're able to do it, you'll beat 99% of people, because most people don't want to be uncomfortable. All right. So you're able to do it, you're ahead of most people. Again, it's not complicated, right, Nigel? You're just basically asking people questions, but it's hard to do, right?
Yeah.
You're putting yourself out there to be ridiculed by other human beings, which historically and biologically speaking, has always meant we're probably going to die, right? So our minds have always adapted to avoid those types of situations, but we're not in that environment anymore, right? So again, I try to torch you guys. If you guys want something, go after it. Again, it will be uncomfortable, but ask, make attempts, study. Like, your life depends on, if you don't get this, something bad happens towards you and your family. If you go with that type of mindset, which is kind of extreme, but my thing is, like, I get one life that God gifted me, so I want to make the best out of it I can. I'm doing everything in my power to make sure I live the life that I intend to live. So that's how I treat it.
Yeah. One of the best advice I got when I got in the field 3 years ago was my mentor. I say she's my mentor, but she's essentially who told me, after I was posting on LinkedIn trying to get into the field, and she reached out to me. She reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you do this?" And I started fumbling. I'm like, "Oh my God, can I do this role?" And then I was like, yeah, I can. And she was like, "Apply." And I was like, I wrote her back an excuse. And what she told me was, "Let them tell you no." And I was like, oh, snap. And that's what it is. I'll never forget that. She told me, let them tell you no. That's all I needed.
Yeah. Don't self-slut yourself out, all right?
Yeah.
Like, let them tell you you're not good enough, all right? Don't tell yourself you're not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question. I'm a web developer pivoting to cybersecurity, but I need to start off as a SOC analyst and work my way up to threat hunter, or can I pivot into threat hunting directly? I would say it's very unlikely you get a threat hunter job right off the bat, unless you're in the top probably like 5 to 1%. So if you feel like you're that good, you went to Stanford, you have a master's in computer science or something like that with MIT, then probably you won't get a job directly out of it, right? So what I would suggest towards you is to find, first off, be in an area, right, where there's other people and other professionals that are serious about their craft, because iron sharpens iron, right? If you're playing with people that are serious about your stuff, right, then you're much more likely to level up your game by association of them, right? Which is why I moved to Dallas, because it's a bigger market than when I grew up in Tampa. Second off is, from there, if you know a firm that you want to work for, apply towards it, network with your area professionals that have the same roles that you do, and then try to pivot your way and get to the firm that way. Understand what the hiring managers want, understand what skill sets you need to have in order to get those jobs, and then network like hell in order to make sure that happens, right? Technique, especially for people that live like in really big markets like New York City. If people tell me they're like, Kenneth, like, I live in Brooklyn, I can't find anybody. I'm like, there's like 8 million people around you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, literally, like, you can walk outside, you'll meet professional people. So the thing I do is look at where the corporate headquarters are for a lot of these places, like Google, Meta, Facebook, Microsoft. They have offices like NYC, and so it's like most other companies, right? So what you'll do is, if you're off, right, is even if it's far, right, because again, if you won't do it, someone else is going to do it, right? That's the reality of it, right? So what I would do is I would go towards their offices, right, during lunch hour. Go to places where they eat at, right, and then just naturally try to make conversations there, right? Because during lunch hour they're all going to eat there, right, every single day at the same time. And so if you have like natural interests, like I like anime, right? So I might wear like an anime shirt or have like a Naruto little keychain or something, right? Someone might point that out and be like, hey, that's cool. And look there. And then now you have a natural interest to talk to somebody, right? Small stuff like that. All right. To make it easier to you directly walk in to talk to somebody. So there's tricks you can do that as well. My point is you have to put yourself out there. I get it, it's going to be hard and uncomfortable, right? But if you want this and it means enough towards you, you will make it happen. You'll make the necessary sacrifices in order to make it happen, all right? So that'll be my advice towards you.
My advice would be do as much research on the necessary skills to become a threat hunter and learn those skills. I would actually block out any certification, any YouTube video on a day in the life of a threat hunter. And I would go to every platform, sign up for Ellington Cyber Academy or whatever you need to do, and learn hands-on keyboard platforms, skills to become a threat hunter. I would zero in on that. I would eat, breathe, and sleep threat hunter. I would type in, I'm gonna give you everything. I would type in threat hunter in LinkedIn, search bar, go to jobs, look at the first 5 that have been posted, go to skills and responsibilities, write down some that match for those first 5 that you see that are cohesive in those first 5. And then I would learn those skills. I would learn them like the back of my hand, and I would learn that.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop Courtney's episode where I went over her.
Yeah,
Courtney's episode that I taped with her a couple months ago about her day in the life of being a threat hunter. I'll drop it here. You guys have it. Courtney's awesome, by the way, guys. She's super wonderful human being.
yeah.
She was my first apprentice instructor I ever had for ECA, and she's killing it. She tripled her salary like in 2 years, so she's a beast. And then Ariel puts, what's the best way to build a brand with little time, right? So, and then this will be the last question that we'll answer. So it's a couple of things. Confident comes from displayed excellence over time. That's basically what confident is, right? And so that comes from doing something over and over and over again that's mundane. There's a point where you become excellent at it. So Ariel, let's say you want to build your brand, right, and meet a lot of different people. How many people would you say you would have to reach out to every single day in order to make it unreasonable that you wouldn't be successful? Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 100 people per day? Let's say it's 100 people per day. That means every day for, let's say, 3 months, you reach out to 100 people per day, right? And you do that every day, even on weekends. You do that every day. You do it for around 3 days, which is around 90 days. And then after that, you can track your progress to see how you're doing. If you feel it's hard, that means you're correct. But this is hard, right? You said a little time. So if that's something that you want to do, then put a number or put amount of reps that it would be unreasonable for you to be unsuccessful at it if you did it right. For me, right, I'm doing more sales calls for ECA to get more people to sign up for us, right? So my goal is to do like 5 per day, which means I need to schedule 5 per day, right? So how many people do I need to reach out to over LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, right? To make that happen. Is it 100 people per day? Is it 1,000 people a day? Someone's like 1,000 people per day, but I'm like, hey, if I believe it's almost 100% guaranteed, I will have, let's say, $100,000 per month if I do 1,000 people per day, right? Then that is the bar, right? Right? It's hard, but I know what I need to do to make sure it happens, right? And let's say I can't do 1,000 people a day. Let's say I can only do 500 per day. That's better than doing nothing, right? So there, yeah. A lot of times, honestly, it's just reps. Like putting in enough reps to make sure you're able to be confident in whatever you're doing.
And do something authentic and niche to you.
Yeah.
There's only one to do.
Yeah. Or also says, so you're saying to reach out to people and introduce myself? Yes. Don't be shy, Ariel. You're a very nice person. I met you in person a bunch of times. She lives in Dallas. Yeah. So don't be shy, Ariel. Yeah. I have a video on my LinkedIn profile, guys, where I actually go over this. I go over in more detail in the actual program for my actual members, but I have like an hour session. I think, Nigel, you were on it with me. It was with Markeisha, who runs her own consulting company too. It was me and Nigel. So we go over it for like an hour straight how to actually build and market yourself. So it's going to be on my profile. You go to events, you scroll down, it'll say LinkedIn, and you'll click on that video. Last question we'll answer, then we'll end. Is James? I have quite a few labs, and even some with Splunk. I'm more comfortable with Sentinel MD. Would it be beneficial to learn more about Splunk or stick with Sentinel? You can stick with Sentinel. Yeah, I would say you can do Sentinel if you want to. I prefer Splunk. I think it's a better platform overall. But yeah, it's just going to depend on what you want to do. If you can learn Splunk, you can learn any other platform, in my personal opinion, because it is the most robust and has the most use cases. Because Splunk in of itself can cover like 20 different use cases. After Sentinel, it's mainly purely for security focus. So if you want to learn Splunk, you're in the right place. Just directly DM me or Nigel. We'll get you hooked up and go over that. But Splunk is harder than Sentinel, in my personal opinion. I'm actually gonna be doing a Sentinel demo next couple weeks actually as well. For some interviews I'm doing, so I want to kind of practice. So if you have questions about that, James, let us know. But again, guys, thank you for attending. If you guys have questions about anything that we're doing, about what ECA is, again, this is Kenneth Ellington, this is Nigel Boston. We are both on LinkedIn. Directly ping us or go directly towards our site and get signed up to book a call with me, talk to Nigel. Again, we're here to support you, but don't be shy. Next session, Nigel, I'm probably getting Markeisha to come on and we're going to do another LinkedIn thing because I keep getting people that don't know how to talk to people. It's very annoying. So I'm going to go over again on how to make sure it happens. I'm tired of people lurking. I'll ask people, Nigel. I'm like, hey, I saw you checked out my profile. Does something resonate with you? Nope, not at all. Then every day for like a month, they'll look at my profile every single day at the same time. I'm like, can I help you? Nah. It's weird. But anyways, we'll go over how to respond to different type of people, how to build connections and relationships again. So other than that, though, I'll see you guys again in 2 weeks. If you guys have any questions at all, just let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. And stream.